That's better. Now let's get on with it.
I say we accept the challenge, but only if I get to pitch.
Why should you get to pitch?
Because we won't win if I don't pitch.
You didn't do such a hot job the last time we
Here we
played the
go
Thunderbirds.
again.
You pitched, and we lost.
Look, Big Shot, it wasn't the pitching that lost the game, it was the fielding.
This reminds me of the argument we had over the lean, mean machine.
Oh,
Precisely.
yeah, I can pitch circles around you any day.
Let's not forget that winning isn't everything.
Oh my gosh, Pamela. Winning isn't everything, but it sure beats the heck out of losing.
And win is exactly what we're gonna do.
All right.
Casey, also ecstatic with the prospects of winning, tried to stifle his giggling, but his enthusiasm could not be contained. There had not been this much excitement around the Human Race Club treehouse for a long time. The single object that had charged the air with what seemed like pure electricity had been appropriately named the Lean Mean Machine. The Lean Mean Machine was a wooden motorless go-kart that had been carefully constructed by the Human Race Club. It took the group a little more than 3 months to gather all of the vehicle's many parts and assemble them. As the club members stood in tribute around the magnificent go-kart, they fondly reminisced about everything that had taken place in the course of the last few months. Teddy spoke in reverent tones.
Can you believe what we just accomplished? Look at that go-kart, and all because we worked together as a team. As far as I'm concerned, we should feel proud of ourselves.
All right, Teddy. Woo! Good job. Yay!
When things finally calmed down, Casey asked innocently,
Gee, since this go-kart was such a team effort, how are we going to decide who gets to drive it in tomorrow's race?
the race Casey referred to was the Hometown Go-Kart Derby, held annually on the town's steepest hill. Its paved street was closed off one day a year so the special event could take place. Cash prizes were awarded to the winners. According to an announcement in a local newspaper, $200 would be given to this year's first place winner. $100 would be given for second place and $50 for third. Maggie confidently answered Casey's question.
Everybody already knows who's driving in tomorrow's race.
Oh, yeah?
Who? Don't you remember who came up with the idea of building a go-kart?
Maggie's comment triggered Pamela's thinking.
The answer to that question would require a bit of research. After all, go-karts have been in existence for years.
That's not what I mean, Pamela. I'm talking about the person who suggested that we build a go-kart. If you remember, I saw the newspaper article. I told you guys about it, and I suggested that we enter the Derby. That's why I should be the one to drive in tomorrow's race.
I should get to drive.
She may
I
have
was the one that
brains,
found a
but
good
I
It
deal
was
on
as
those
though
wheels.
Maggie had set off a string of firecrackers in the middle of the gathering. The group exploded into a series of arguments. Each club member was yelling why he or she should be the one to drive in the Derby.
Every should be the one to drive the go-kart.
Only Pamela remained silent. She tried to block out the bickering by putting her hands over her ears, but it was no use. Finally, when she could stand it no longer, she jumped into the middle of the group and yelled as loud as she could.
Everyone, listen to me!
The sound of Pamela's shrill voice stunned everyone into silence.
Golly, Pamela, I never knew you could yell so loudly.
Casey said respectfully. Then it was quiet again. Pamela took advantage of the silence and continued.
This decision must be made exactly as we make all our decisions. We need to discuss it and then vote on it.
Pamela's right. Let's go into the treehouse and settle this disagreement in a civilized manner.
The club members were climbing into the treehouse when Teddy's mother called out to them.
Teddy! Maggie's mother mother just phoned. She wants Maggie to come home for a piano lesson.
Oh, rats! I hate those stupid piano lessons.
Maggie, your lesson's only 30 minutes long. Why don't you come back when it's over?
That's a good idea. We won't make any major decisions while you're gone. Okay, Maggie?
Oh, well, I guess that's what I'll have to do. See you guys later.
Reluctantly, Maggie left. When Maggie came back to the treehouse almost an hour later, she found a note posted on the door. It read, "We went to buy some stuff to eat. We'll be back soon." Maggie decided to wait for the club members to return. As Maggie wandered impatiently around the treehouse, she came across the notebook that contained the club minutes. It lay open to a page of notes that Pamela had written that day. Maggie skimmed through the words. When she got to the last sentence on the page, she shook her head in disbelief. The sentence read, "In regard to the Derby, it was decided that Teddy would be the one." Maggie could feel her blood beginning to boil as she talked out loud to herself.
So they weren't gonna make any major decisions without me, huh?
She threw the notebook down and paced around the treehouse like a tiger in a cage. The more she thought about the situation, the angrier Maggie became. Finally, she climbed down from the treehouse and walked over to the Lean Mean machine. She grabbed the rope that was attached and pulled the go-kart to the sidewalk in front of Teddy's house.
Nobody's gonna tell me I can't drive in the Derby. I'll show them.
Maggie said through clenched teeth. She climbed into the go-kart, and immediately it began to roll. As the Lean Mean machine picked up speed, Maggie realized that she was losing control of it. The go-kart was heading toward the big oak tree at the end of the block when Maggie, panic-stricken, let go of the steering wheel and crouched down in the driver's seat. Seconds later, Maggie felt a tremendous thud as the Lean Mean machine crashed into the oak tree. A stunned Maggie crawled out of the go-kart to survey the damage.
Oh, no!
Maggie knew immediately that the go-kart's right front wheel was beyond repair. She had just finished positioning the go-kart to hide the damage when she heard a familiar voice.
Well, if it isn't the Human Race Club's very own concert pianist.
The club members chuckled at AJ's remark and waited for Maggie to respond. Surprisingly, she said nothing. After a long and comfortable pause, Teddy suggested,
Let's get back to our meeting.
Once again, the club members assembled together in the treehouse. Teddy was the first to speak.
Maggie, I know I promised we wouldn't make any major decisions while you were gone, but we just couldn't wait for you to get back. Pamela, would you please read the minutes of our meeting to Maggie?
Pamela opened the notebook to the fateful page that Maggie had read. She began reading the last sentence on the page.
In regard to the Derby, it was decided that Teddy would be the one.
Pamela paused long enough to turn the page, and then she continued.
To get the Lean Mean machine to the race, and Maggie will be the one to drive it.
All eyes turned toward Maggie. But instead of seeing the wildly excited person they expected to see, the club members saw sullen Maggie sitting in silence, staring at the floor. After a few moments, Casey said,
Gee whiz, Maggie. We thought you wanted to be the one to drive in the Derby.
Maggie solemnly rose to her feet and motioned for the club members to follow her. She led them out of the treehouse to where the go-kart stood. When Maggie pointed to the crumpled wheel, everyone gasped in horror.
Oh,
Fighting back, Maggie told her sad, embarrassing story. When she finally finished, she broke into sobs.
I shouldn't have gotten so angry.
Maggie wailed. Pamela put her arm around Maggie in an effort to reassure her.
There's nothing wrong with getting angry. We all get angry once in a while.
Yeah, like right now I feel pretty angry about that bent-up wheel.
Teddy nudged AJ and whispered.
Be quiet. Can't you see how upset Maggie is?
Reflecting on Pamela's remarks, Casey added,
Joy always says there is no such thing as a bad feeling. There are only bad ways to handle feelings.
Soon it became obvious the meeting was over. They vowed they would have their go-kart repaired and ready for next year's derby. Meanwhile, the lean, mean machine took on a whole new meaning. Sitting beneath the treehouse, the go-kart served as a constant reminder of what can happen when emotions are not handled properly. This message had cost the Human Race Club $200, and only time would tell whether or not they got their money's worth.